with a little Sam and Dave.
That shit was that song is fucking awesome.
Ooh.
Those guys are the real thing, man. Those guys are the real fucking thing.
You know what? Welcome everybody to Rad Pod and Chill. I'm Heidi Kuda. I'm here with Jim and Hi-Fi, and I didn't expect that to make me feel so emotional, but it's like, man, I got so many calls this week from people who are so distressed that they can't reach their family members. One friend called today and she was absolutely gutted because family members were at some event affiliated with that Kenneth Copeland chap, and she can't reach them. And I keep telling people what I tell you or what Jim tells me, which is don't worry, they'll be back. Don't worry, they'll be back. Again, that song definitely got to me.
The good choice. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. For me, I don't know. That shit just energizes me. I'm ready to go. This last week was fucking crazy. in a lot of different ways, and I think the thing
they're eating the pets.
Well, that's the thing, right? It is like on one side you got the DOJ and the FBI, remarkably, and we'll talk about that, but showing how the Russian fucking government laundered $10 million into well-known right-wing figures to literally run Russian psyops on Americans. They wrote it down in an algorithm for everybody to see.
Yeah.
It's like psyop Americans. You tell them that white men are endangered and all the brown people are coming. You tell them women are coming after your rights. They just told us one by one what's going on. And on the other side, right, and by the way, debate, we'll get into that. Oh my God. So we had that fucking debate. And then on the other side, what they have to offer is complete bullshit that is designed in the same way that the Nazis designed their propaganda.
Right.
I wrote an article about triggering Chaya Reich, and what she uses is the emotion of disgust, right? They want to they're trying to disgust people with foreigners and immigrants and all that. So they're eating your pets, or they're going after your kids, and they're going to do terrible sex stuff to them, right? It's all like, what is the most disgusting thing that we can possibly get away with? I think they found out that, like, the total bullshit. The black and brown people are coming to Ohio to eat white people's pets. Honestly, it's just like, okay. I think we have a clear distinction, right? We've got people who are just willingly at this point. And I say willingly advisedly because there's nothing willing about people in a cult, but they know it's bullshit. They do. They know it's nonsense. I interact with these people all day, and all they have now are these thought-stopping cliches. There's nothing left anymore except for no. That's where we are at this point, and to some extent, that's easier to work with because they've lost all pretense of it being anything but 4chan. And amazingly, and sorry, Hi-Fi, I'll stop. But Jake Tapper, of all people, said that Donald Trump's debate performance was like a giant 4chan post.
Wow.
I was like,
Wow.
okay, Jake, go
Wow.
ahead.
Well, that's yeah.
I'm pretty mad at CNN these days, but that was pretty good because
Yeah.
that's literally what it is. It's just id. It's just vile and bile and anger coming up from this incel sort of, leftover like caveman bullshit that we just, I think we're all just, hopefully this is the last hurrah and we just have to kick this shit all the way into the fucking down below the earth. So this shit doesn't come back at least for another 80 fucking years.
Word. Yeah. High five.
Longer than that because my grandkids aren't going to put up with this. Anyway, no, the
Since the
thing I
last
need to
time the
talk
Nazis
about.
came, that's all I meant.
Yeah. We
right.
know.
The last time we need to talk about this pet thing because this pet thing is this is incredibly fucking disturbing, right? The eating of pets and the eating of animals that are considered non-food items by immigrants actually goes back, at least that I've found, to the mid 1800s in California, where white people would accuse Chinese immigrants, Asians, of eating their cats and their dogs. This is a racist trope that's been around for hundreds of years, and yet people are still allowing it to like catch hold in their little fucking brain pans. People, if you knew your history, you would know what they're doing. Pay
All right.
attention in class, for God's sakes. Watch our podcast, something.
It,
And
it, al- it also goes back to blood libel. I mean, this is so, blood libel was about Jews eating Christian kids, drinking their blood, right? It's about Jews, or Muslims, at first, but it's been carried on with Jews for 1,000 fucking years. The Crusaders said that the Jews were drinking the blood of Christian children, and that's how they rationalized murdering them and getting rid of them from Jerusalem when they chased them all around the fucking world. It's just the same thing that everyone from the Crusades through Hitler and Donald Trump, it's just the same goddamn thing.
Okay.
And it's enough.
So these troglodytes have no ideas, and so they always have to use the same playbook. As both my colleagues were saying, there's a history to all this awful, and unfortunately, it's effective because we had an explosive week where, as Jim was talking about, the DOJ and FBI put out an explosive indictment, explosive affidavit. We see that the Russians are planting stories through American proxies that are meant to mess with people's minds and understanding of reality, particularly around the war in Ukraine and our own country and our own success. And unfortunately, Jason Stanley, who wrote How Fascism Works and Erasing History, which I'm reading now, explained to us on an episode of RadPod the very first time he appeared that spreading wild conspiracy theories benefit fascist movements. That is why Jim is going back in history. That is why High Fidelity is going back in history. Guess what it also does? It obscures reality, and it gets people to start doubting their eyes and their ears, and that's how you groom somebody to be a foot soldier for an insurrection. So even though I'm dismayed that we continually do the same thing, they throw out these horrible, hideous narratives. The pro-democracy contingency is outrage. And once again, we get caught in the trap of talking about something that is designed to really agitate and mess with people's heads and also obscure, reality. And so I put out my post about conspiracy theories from Jason. And one more line I'll read from him that I hope helps people is that fascist politics creates a state of unreality in which conspiracy theories and fake news replace reasoned debate. As the common understanding of reality crumbles, fascist politics makes room for dangerous and false beliefs to take root. Now, in the two Americas, Jim can watch the debate and he can see Kamala Harris absolutely, just completely decimating Trump, who comes across very weird and in some cases feeble. Hi-Fi probably sees something similar. What I see is us not having learned anything in 8 years, because I think you put two of them on the stage, and I'm sorry, for me, that is legitimizing Trump, that he's even on the fucking stage next to a real candidate. And I just don't think that's, I think, as Hi-Fi was saying to me yesterday, the only stage this man deserves is a public sidewalk in handcuffs and his way into a courtroom. So, Jim, I'm sure you have, your opinion on.
I mean, I agree. He shouldn't be anywhere near the stage, but
he is.
He is.
Yeah.
So here I'm gonna. I think I could share, so I'm gonna try.
Oh, this will be exciting.
Because this will. I don't know if people can you see that?
We're good.
So do you know the Globetrotters?
Yes. Who doesn't?
So I don't have any video clips, but you don't need them. That's the amazing thing. So I just want to play this. Anyway, there's my contribution.
Well done. Well done.
Okay.
Because all you have to do is you don't have to hear a thing.
Yeah, true.
I mean, and Republican, political advisors have said this for a long time. They're the ones who, they don't give a shit about the words. They don't give a shit about the substance. They give a shit about winning. And what those people say is, you can tell who's winning by looking at the screen with zero sound, without knowing any words, without a thing. And I think you can figure out who won just by looking at still pictures. It was not a debate. It was a shriveling, angry Nazi who was having a narcissistic collapse, and a prosecutor who was looking at him like a very, very sad dog, right? It was contempt. And that, I mean, mixed with her just fucking laughing at this guy. So, they have not been able to spin this debate. Even the other side has not been able to.
Not even the Russians.
Yeah, not even the Russians. By the way, shout out to Julia Davis.
Yeah, for sure.
Julia Davis News on X, and follow her on YouTube as well, because the best possible way to know what's happening in terms of the disinformation space is to just watch the fucking Russians.
Yeah. They
tell you exactly what their impressions are and how they plan to attack it.
Right.
It's remarkable. And the only sort of barrier that they have is language. And Julia takes care of the language part and absolutely knows their bullshit inside and out and untwists it like nobody else. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like they don't know what to do with their guy. It's do they abandon ship? Do they flirt with supporting her? It's very, very interesting.
Well, no, the flirting with supporting her was a joke.
No, I realize that. Putin, of course, but the commentators are almost like they're
yeah. There's some who were like, no, she's an American, so we hate her. And there was another guy who's like, sorry, but she kicked his fucking ass.
Yeah,
really, she showed deep emotional intellect. And he was going on and on about how fucking awesome she was and how terrible and small Trump looked. And that's when they're not laughing at him. So anyway,
yeah.
it's just wild to see all the stuff that we've been talking about for a long time, right? But sort of covert, it's what gives our critics, a way to say, hey, blue anon. Well, you can't call us blue. Fuck you.
Yeah, right. Right.
FBI affidavit.
Yeah. Well, they got to last gasp. They have to do what they have to do. But what I do find interesting, and I think that there is some sort of like confession and projection going on, because it's weird how so many gig stalkers are completely tied to that network that was receiving money from Russia. Like, it's just so, it's not like 6 degrees of separation. It's like, no, immediately tied to the folks receiving.
I have a fun fact. Do you want to hear a fun fact about that?
Oh,
Ooh, fun fact time.
Please.
Get it.
One of the two people who were indicted, one of the two Russians who were indicted for laundering $10 million from the Russian government to Americans, is the former director of Rosatom.
Yeah.
The Russian State Atomic Energy Corporation.
Yeah.
That Mike Flynn was doing deals with while that guy was running it.
Yeah.
And Mike Flynn, if you remember, was texting with his fucking criminal co-conspirators about nuclear deals. Right? It was nuclear deals that were going to go to the Saudis, and the provider was going to be Rosatom.
Mm-hmm.
Rosatom was therefore going to get all of our fucking nuclear secrets. And that would have happened if Mike Flynn hadn't been, kicked out of the fucking White House.
Right.
So this guy's new job is working for RT, setting up deals to brainwash Americans with Americans. Yeah. So also, last thing, remember in the shower in Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah, I do.
Remember what's in there? They had fucking nuclear secrets in there.
Yeah, Scar-a-Lago.
Guess what those were about? I'm telling you, man, like when this thing finally unfucks itself,
yeah,
it's gonna freak out because it's the same people,
yeah,
doing the same shit,
yeah,
for the third time in a row.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm going to say one more thing. Merrick Garland had a speech today about norms that made me want to fucking break stuff real bad. Real bad. Fucking norms. Over norms, and I'm protecting the department. Nobody gives a fuck about your department. We care about you protecting us from enemies, foreign and domestic. We don't care about your fucking norms and the idea that somehow you're free of political influence by kowtowing to every MAGA fucking lunatic in the country.
Armed MAGA lunatic. Armed MAGA lunatic.
The same people who stole the 2016 election, who tried and almost through violence murdering Capitol police officers and injuring some of our guests.
Yeah. Real.
I'm fucking sick of the lack of context,
urgency
here, and that, and I still see people defending this feckless fucking Justice Department and FBI, and I'm sorry, I don't like to criticize, but it's not my thing. I'm not here to criticize my government. I'm here to protect it. But when you have people who have shown that they have no ability no backbone, no, passion for protecting America, when their passion is protecting their little institutions and their norms, we have a problem. That's just as much of a problem as any of these other psychos out here, is that we've got this feckless deep state bureaucracy that has allowed this kind of shit to go on for decades. This is the fifth. The 5 fucking Republican presidents in a row were put there by cheating, and they're doing it again. And these fucking assholes are letting it happen again. So I'm sorry, I had to vent that. And I, the Justice Department is not full of bad people.
Of course not.
It is not. Of course not. The FBI is not full of bad people, but the 2 people that are leading those organizations have absolutely brought them to a halt.
I just need to remind everyone that the person who was involved in investigating Donald Trump for collusion with the Russians around 2016 himself went to prison for colluding with the Russians. So,
Charles McGonigal.
So I want people to, because I've always been of the, I don't find it useful to pile on to Merrick Garland, so I usually don't say much of anything, and I'm very grateful for the week we've had. But Jim, I want you to explain, because 3 years ago, when I first interviewed you, you were so alarmed at what you were seeing on Telegram. You were so alarmed at seeing millions and millions and millions of people being radicalized into, adopting like Nazi, propaganda. And you said that everybody's got to take off the white wigs because the norms aren't going to save us. Can you tell people what you were seeing 3 years ago that makes you say what you just said tonight, so people understand the urgency and why you feel this way?
I mean, it was not many months into 2021 that I started to be like, wait, why the fuck are all these guys still running around? Right? I mean, and I'm in a bit of a, unique position, not unique, but among many others, I was fucking there watching it and warning people ahead of time. And so I had this great sort of sense of relief. Okay, the fucking good guys are here, right? And then, not to mention fucking Charles Flynn, that's a whole different story. But fucking, we get nothing from the Justice Department for 2 years. And we come to find out it was the FBI dragging their feet on purpose to slow him down. And there's 2 people playing that fucking game there. There's one who's trying to slow it down and the other who's letting him. And then what did we get? We got one special counsel, and Jack Smith's doing his fucking job. Don't get me wrong. But we got one special counsel for everything and 2 for the Biden crime family. It's a fucking
crime
joke.
family. Crime family. Yeah.
It's a fucking joke. And so, when I said that norms are not going to save us, I mean, norms are going to kill us. Because here's the thing. Norms only work when you have 2 sides that are accepting them.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Otherwise, all you're doing is conceding territory in advance. And it's important territory. It's territory like putting dangerous people in prison that need to be there in order to save us from another coup. And so it's frustrating for me to see the same fucking cycle over and over again.
And the same people.
Like, what's going on? And then Merrick Garland trots out and he's like, oh, we're going to lower ticket prices or norms or whatever the fuck. And 0 times have I heard anything come out of his mouth that gave me confidence. It made me feel like he gives a shit about me, not whatever the fuck he's worried about. I don't care about his optics or his norms or any of it. What I care about is him enforcing the rule of law. And he's not. He's enforcing some bizarre like dictator set of rules for these people, and everybody else is fucking ignoring. And I'm tired of it. That's all.
So, but can you and Hi-Fi as well explain to people what you were seeing online 3 years ago? We know a lot more of what the ramifications were of not doing anything about it.
Well, Telegram is a Russian intelligence honeypot. Always had. I mean, we can get into Pavel Durov and all that shit. But it was kind of a sleepy little mid-range Russian fucking, Twitter for a long time. And then comes January 8th, 2021, 2 days after J6, right? When Twitter and Facebook decided, oh my goodness gracious, we didn't realize all these QAnons and Nazis were going to do that. And they just wiped them all out, right? They just knocked them off and said, we were absolved because we banned them, and now everything is going to be fine, right? Not forgetting about the fact that they let it go on for fucking decade in order for it to get to that point. Regardless, they did. And by the way, they had a button. It happened like that. They knew all of them. They had them all figured out and did it like that because they absolutely had a QAnon fucking button, and they chose not to turn it off. But once they did, all of those people had to go somewhere, right? Millions of them, all these QAnon peoples, and not only are they lost, they're devastated, psychologically devastated, right? Because the plan didn't work. Nothing worked. Holy shit. It still looks like Biden's going to be president. Oh my God. And so they're in a horrible panic, flooding to Telegram. And what's on Telegram in January 2021? In America, at least. And I know there are other countries that use it for legitimate shit. But there's a bunch of fucking Nazis and literal Russian fucking like agents and channels devoted to Russia and shit, right? I mean, fucking hardcore stuff. And they all flowed in there, and it was like a feeding frenzy. It was a feeding frenzy. It was like, oh, look at all the cute little QAnons. They're all sad about Joe Biden. Well, and they swarmed them.
Wow.
And then a bunch of these big QAnon accounts started changing their tune because they didn't have to go by any rules anymore. And all the anti-Semitic Nazi shit that they had underneath it the whole time, they just started coming out with it. And gradually, not even that gradually, it radicalized the entire thing. And then Elmo comes around and was like, oh shit, well, you can just do that over here now. And mix it up with all the noise. And so now what we have is this sort of captured Telegram, Twitter population that he's trying to use to split the country apart
and sway the election. I just did a report for Byline Supplement called the subhuman hate of Elon Musk, and I use that phrase because the editor there gave me a study that had just been released from Poland showing hundreds of like virulent hate, posts that were as awful as you would see in the dark corners of the internet, but they're all on Twitter. And I grabbed a handful of them and posted them in the article. I don't usually do that, but the urgency of the international emergency that is Elon Musk needed to be seen by people. And of the hundreds of posts of the worst imaginable things that were said, they only took down 8%. All of it's still up there. And then the organization from Poland, which is the leading anti-racism organization in Poland, when they reported it, they got a 3% boost. So they managed to take down 11% of the hundreds of posts. But the worst of them are still there for anybody to read. It'll be a quote, Andrew Tate will post something racist and terrible, and then it'll be quote tweeted with something that, I would never repeat. But I'm just saying, like, when Jim says that was invited onto Twitter, that's not hyperbole, that's real. And as Brent Allpress told us, the Twitter operation that Musk is running is to largely try to sway the outcome of the 2024 election. And where I'm going with that is that, as you guys know, I'm reading a book about the last winter of the Weimar Republic called The Gravediggers. And at one point, the leader of Germany at the time in the 30s gets like a letter from 200 industrialists in support of Hitler. And I bring that up because in our interview, which we're going to start showing clips of with Dr. Nafeez Ahmed, who has a book coming out called Reich, and you can actually, on our YouTube site, you can grab that link that Hi-Fi posted and get more information and get yourself in queue to pre-order it, because it's a really important book. But as Nafeez said, the new industrialists, yes, we have industrialists. We have the surviving Coke, etc. But the new industrialists are these tech oligarchs, and they basically are the ones, signing the memo in support of the, authoritarian candidate in America. And, I bring it up because, again, these guys looked at him as the way to maybe get more money out of the state. The spoils go to them if Hitler gains power. And it's like, it's the same thing here, but it's an incredible emergency. And I hope that we have the stamina to stay the course through November and on into January to stop this and defeat this, because it means nothing good.
I mean, this thing is, Elon Musk's, there's an easy parallel to Elon Musk, which is Henry Ford. So, yes, industrialists, right? People who become billionaires, if they are, if they have the wrong ideology, they can get very, very fucking dangerous, right? And bring they can bring nations down, and they can contribute to bringing nations down. Henry Ford inspired, and people don't really realize this, Henry Ford and Hitler basically went back and forth polishing the Nazi ideology. Henry Ford in 1920, when Hitler was just kind of, a pup, as it were, published the Protocols of the Elders of Zion in his own personal, and we were talking before about the fucking pets and the eating and the blood libel and shit. All of that, if there's one document that encapsulates the insanity of that, it's the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. It's not arguably, it is responsible in part for hundreds of millions of deaths, literally. Jews and lots and lots of other people who've been killed in wars because of it. And so that guy still went on to make cars, and all of that was pushing Hitler's ideology all the way through the 20s and the 30s. Was part of the America First movement. Sound familiar with Charles Lindbergh, right? veteran war hero Charles Lindbergh. Sound fucking familiar, right? And the problem is that when you get people with too much power, you get oligarchs like this, like Elon Musk, he starts to think of himself as a nation, right? He's not an American in his mind. He's his own nation. And what he's trying to do is get America, like suck all of our resources up, take the labor of Americans all across the country, take it for himself, and ruin everything that we care about in the process. I mean, you know, I've said Flynn is the worst trader in American history. You know, I don't know. I mean, Flynn, I'm still going with Flynn, but Elmo's up there. This motherfucker came to America, declared that, you know, he was loyal to America as an American citizen, and then spent a very long time defrauding us and the government. And I wrote a long, and I'll shut up, a screed saying when Kamala Harris gets in office, she needs to deal with these fucking oligarchs. We cannot go on like this where Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. No.
I'm still a piece of garbage.
Exquisite, very well done. They are the largest contractors for the U.S. government, and that is fucking crazy. Why? Like you've got this lunatic racist right now. You're paying him billions of dollars of my fucking money. No, you're not. We need to stop that. Sorry.
And that's fine. I got a couple of things to say, but high fidelity. I know you got something to say.
I just need to point out to people that, like, you know, we have talked about the psychopaths who are attempting to overthrow democracy forever. Mm-hmm. And America has always had this wink and this nod, like, relationship with racism, right? Whether or not the elites with the money actually believe this, it's useful to them to separate the working class between the white people and the black people, brown people, whatever. We are addicted to these billionaires. We know that in, you know, the 40s and 50s, there's this whole business plot and this anti-communism thing going on. We had the business plot, except we're doing it again. And this time, Smedley Butler, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, retired. He took the billionaires up on the offer to overthrow the country. He didn't give testimony about it. And we're kind of fucked on that front. I really wish this country would break its addiction to money and this insane, unfettered capitalism, because we cannot allow sociopaths like that to dictate policy and the way we live. That's all.
Well done. I have a question for you guys, because it's something that I've been grappling with, because we are talking about the power. And quite frankly, we're not addicted to billionaires. They've addicted us to them, and they've used their money to change our ability to protect ourselves from them. They are using their money to ensure that our democracy does not get in the way of their greed. And that is actually how it's happening. But what I want to say is that when the Tenet affidavit broke and the RT employees were indicted, and the owners of the media company that laundered information for the Russians, YouTube immediately took down Tenet Media's 2,000 videos, which had reached 16,000 people. And I look at the people that they reached as casualties of the mind war, right? So also, as far as investigative reporting goes, it doesn't, you know, they took it down. We can't go there to see what was going on. And but that was the decision made by YouTube. Again, we're in a brave new world, so that was the decision made. And I'm just going to say that anybody who wants to see a frozen in time, smells like rotten herring timeline, you can still see all of Tenet videos that were paid by Russian to promote Russian propaganda, which appears to be Western narratives. You can still see it on Twitter, frozen in time, not a post since the indictment dropped. September 4th, I think was the date. And I bring this up because, like, it's when you talk about a mind war, that in itself is a mind fuck. You have one platform takes it down, the other one leads it up. One says free speech. It was never free speech. This is literally warfare against America. And I'll just bring up one more point, and I brought it up last week. The Russians in their dossier knew that we had a successful economy under Biden. So they were strategizing how to deny us the awareness and the ability to understand that we were experiencing success. And what they decided was, wouldn't it be easy to distract the Americans by creating a proxy war? And in this dossier, they were throwing out the idea of Venezuela, Mexico, Cuba at the time. And I bring it up because, again, one tech company takes down the Russian funded propaganda. The other one leaves it up for anybody to see. And I don't even know what to do with that.
I do need to point something out. I mean, these people were arrested, working for RT. RT has been sanctioned, but you can still get RT in America. And where can you find RT in America? Why, you can find it on Rumble Video, which is of course funded by vice presidential candidate JD Vance and the other psychopath.
I'm still a piece of garbage.
I cannot believe we are still allowing these people to pull this bullshit on us. Where is anyone with an ounce of sense and an ounce of power?
We need help. We need help.
Holding these fucking people to account. We know Plan J6. We know who executed it. We know who financed it. We know who financed the cult building. We know who ran the cult building. Why is this so fucking hard? Jim wrote about it on Twitter a week before it fucking happened. And yet the FBI is like, who could have foreseen it? Oh my goodness. Shut the fuck up, Christopher Wray. Anyway, sorry. Next.
Look, the reason why I'm still ranting about fucking Merrick Garland is because, first of all, the FBI people, the agents that did that work were fucking great.
Amazing.
If you like, it's a very FBI document, but it's 277 pages long. Most of those are exhibits, but fucking read it. It's like, it tells you. But here's the thing. That was a very, very specific and singular, tiny, teeny little example of what goes on.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. It's not about, like, I don't give it doesn't matter really whether their fucking videos are still there or not. Because the same people, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, Lawrence Southern, all these fucking same people are doing what? Spreading shit, spreading ideas about about black people eating white people's dogs. That's what they're doing. And that myth, that bullshit is literally straight out of the Russian playbook. Yeah. Make white people terrified of immigrants by lying to them. Yeah. Make them hate them. Make them think they're perverts. I mean, all of these words that we hear out of the mouths of red hats are written down by the fucking Russian government. And when we shut down this little fucking cutout, Tenet Media, listen, was started by two people, Laura Chen from Breitbart and shit, you know, been fucking agent forever,
Blaze.
right? And some other dude, right? Whatever, man. They that little operation is nothing. They started it in November 2013. If you listen to Margarita Simonian from RT, you know, she tells you the following. She says, when RT got banned from, you know, all these other places, the Kremlin told us, and in these words, the Kremlin instructed us to do covert guerrilla projects instead. And she said, those are doing way better than RT was. And I believe her, because between just these people, they had 8 million followers on Twitter. And I can tell you that's hundreds or billions of views a month with just those 4. And also, the total amount of money laundered was $10 million, right? And now what happened? Benny Johnson's getting $400,000 a month. Tim Pool's getting $400,000 a month from these motherfuckers. And to the Russians, it's nothing. $10 million is nothing to have that kind of impact on America. So all I'm saying is the DOJ and FBI thing was performative, and it was valuable and good and useful. Don't get me wrong, but it was performative. They found a case where they had internal Russian emails. I mean, how many times are you gonna? I made a chart, and it was how do you figure out if somebody is working for the Russian government? And the chart went like this: are they doing Russian shit? Yes or no?
Yeah.
It's that fucking simple. You really don't have to have their bank accounts and shit. If they're reading from the Russian script, somewhere up the chain is a Russian, right? You just have to fucking find out, because nobody comes into these ideas on their own. They just don't.
We're going to run long today because I don't want to miss. Thank you, Jim, for that. I don't want to miss Nafeez's clips, but I got a couple of things I want to say. One is
badass. We should fucking.
Yes, we're gonna do that soon. One thing, but there's a lot of us. There's a lot of things to unpack tonight. When I explained to Marty how I saw the hierarchy of these agent provocateurs, you know, how you have the person at the top who's you know, paying for the information laundering, and then you have the chief architect who's sort of like the, you know, person that is the front person. Then you have the influencers, and then you have the gig stalkers who are sort of like the boots on the virtual ground, furthering the lies. What Marty said I just described was basically a drug conspiracy operation, and how everyone has a job to further that conspiracy. In a drug conspiracy, he said, if you look at the cartels, they'll have the farmers growing the poppies, the processors who refine it, transporters, the drivers taking it all over the country, the folks who drive the currency, the money, the profits back, the Smurfs that take the drug profits from the money that's sold, you know, on the figurative street corner, and then they try to Smurf it into a bank. So if it's 100,000, they try to use 10 banks to get it under 10,000, so they don't have to report it. And basically, he was saying that everybody has to get paid, and it's run like a business, and everyone has their jobs in this business. So the way to take it down is to take down the whole cartel, the whole organization, by using conspiracy statutes, drug statutes, racketeering statutes, and money laundering statutes. So I just bring that up because I found the network mapping super useful. And the last thing I want to say is there was news coming out of St. Petersburg. The indictment that I wrote about a couple of years ago, some of the
St.
Americans,
Petersburg, Florida.
Yeah,
not
some
Russia.
of the oh, did I not say Florida?
You did not say Florida. St. Petersburg,
okay.
Florida. Indictments.
So bottom line is that I wrote about the fact that Americans were charged for working with the Russians to corrupt elections, and four activists were convicted today, and they were convicted of basically trying to figure out where the title is, because there's a nuance, for essentially being unregistered, agents on behalf of the Russian government. They only got convicted from one charge, not the more extensive charge, but it's still a start. And it took 2 years after the indictment happened, showing that the Russians were paying Americans to do information laundering for the Americans themselves to actually get convicted. So there is that time lag. But
one of the best lines, the line that just blew my mind from the defense attorney, was that the member of this black militant group addressed the Russian, "We are working together as allies, not employer and employee." If we're playing at that fine of semantics, okay, we're obeying the letter of the law, but we are certainly not obeying the spirit of the law. So,
well, I think what we found with this tenant indictment is something that is going to be ultimately way more insidious because of the amount of minds that were influenced by this operation. And as Jim always says, even with the Ianov indictment, you're like, it's a drop in the bucket. There are like dozens, thousands. It's just not one thing. So that's what we're going to be talking about next. So stay with us, because we interviewed Dr. Nafeez Ahmed, who just is putting the finishing touches on a book called Reich, where he maps out the transnational network that is connected and trying to push, the globe essentially toward authoritarianism. And he shows the different connections between America, the UK, Europe, and it's a brilliant book. We got a preview of it. Again, if you want to order a copy, you can get in queue and the pre-order is ready by going to Radicalized Truth Survives at YouTube. But let's start with the first two clips. We have four.
See is that the Russian state has actually for some decades been pursuing a very concerted strategy that's been quite well thought out. It doesn't mean it's super coherent in every way, but it's definitely been poured over and well thought out. And it's a strategy to subvert and destroy and dismantle and destabilize Western democracies as a whole, not just one democracy, but the very concept of democracy and even the structure of the international order that's developed around democracies. And I think what's just happened is an illustration of how deep and how far this has gone, really, that it's getting to the point where, we've got clear evidence of money exchanging hands, deliberate tampering with political processes, attempts to influence, foreign influence operations, the stuff that, might be seen as, like a fiction thriller or a Hollywood movie, but it's actually, what we're seeing is so much of this is actually all too real, and it's astounding. Between these seemingly disparate events, but the 6th January insurrection, the riots in the UK, the war in Ukraine, the elections of Donald Trump, the elections of Nigel Farage, these are not things which are disconnected. They're intimately connected, and they're part of, not necessarily, some people would say, oh, so what you're saying is you're referring to a conspiracy theory. No, we're not talking about a giant singular cabal. This is a heterogeneous network of people who actually disagree with each other on lots of things, but they're getting more and more aligned around these shared alternate realities, you know, these shared crazy ideas. And I think that one of the things that I've found most scary about this, and I think I when I came across Jim, your Substack recently, and I was like, wow, this guy gets it, because I've been, for the last few years, have been saying, guys, we're not just dealing with neo-Nazis; these are literal Nazis, like actual Nazis, that like they actually believe really crazy Nazi ideas, and they don't want us to understand that. And there's very few of us who recognize how deep that rabbit hole goes.
How deep that rabbit hole goes.
Yep.
Fuck.
That by the way, highly, not just because he said nice stuff about me, but amazing interview, amazing,
Incredible.
very smart, and understands the system and the network behind it better than almost anyone I've ever heard. And so, you know, highly recommend that that interview. And what he's talking about, you know, is real. When you really dig into the backgrounds, the ideology, the core beliefs of these fucking people, they really do think this, right? Like Mike Flynn comes from this family of anti-communist lunatics who literally thought the wrong side won World War II. I'll give you one little example of why I think that. Tomorrow, Friday the 13th, he is calling all veterans to Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C., which is the same location where he called his digital soldiers to be ready to die the next day on January 6th. So he is going to be tomorrow in that same location celebrating the veterans of World War I. And the reason for that is because he disagrees with how World War II turned out. The whole thing with these guys, the whole reason why everybody gets called a communist and a Marxist and a socialist and all these fucking words is because they agree with the basic ideology of Hitler, which is that all of these unclean people and these commies need to be eliminated. There is no delta between the ideologies of Henry Ford, right? Adolf Hitler, and these fucking people. To include Elon Musk, especially Elon Musk, who literally grew up in a white ethno state and is clearly trying to create another one and to protect himself from all his fucking criminal shit. And boy, howdy, I can't wait till that fucking House of Mirrors goes down.
One thing that I want to say on, again, Jim says these things not to be hyperbolic. It's because of the research that he does, paying attention to what they're saying. And all you have to do is be reminded of the fact that Donald Trump himself used the word vermin to understand that these people aren't playing. And when they talk about rounding up millions of people, as Jim has explained, that's genocidal talk. So I just want to be clear that people, you know, who may be new to watching us understand that we don't say this stuff to be cute. Let's play the third clip, because on the fourth clip, we have some hope.
Collapsed, you had a different Russia coming into being. And this was when the geopolitical order was shifting. And as Russia became a different entity, you know, like it became much more, as it kind of became marketized and became this kind of oligarch, it's kind of bizarre, kind of authoritarian, oligarchic, capitalist crony system. It began to realize that in order to, you know, as you know, it wanted to kind of change its relationship with Europe and change its relationship with the United States, it began to see the far right as an opportunity. And so many of these groups that, historically had come about saying, communism is like this and the left is like that and blah, 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 blah. Ironically, they became these ideal bedfellows for Putin. They're all pro-Russia. And they all take these very standard lines. They're like, oh, we think Putin is a great, strong leader. We think that the war in Ukraine is actually Europe's fault. It's not Putin's fault. And we think Europe needs to do more on that. We think there should be, we should reduce the sanctions on Russia. And how ironic that the Republican Party, which kind of, has called itself with a kind of hawkish party of, going against the external enemy, has been completely and thoroughly infiltrated and co-opted by Russian finance, Russian intelligence, Russian ideology, with Trump at the epicenter. I mean, it's absolutely astonishing. And these guys call themselves patriots.
They call themselves patriots. Yet in the debate, hold on. In the debate, Trump invokes the name Viktor Orban.
Yeah.
Viktor Orban is an authoritarian mobster who took control in his country by having the police beat and jail the population, which is exactly what Trump is planning on doing in the next election. They're going to try to steal it. We know it's coming.
He also bragged about inviting the Taliban and somebody named Abdul to Camp David, even though Abdul doesn't exist.
Do you want to say one more thing about Nafeez?
Yeah, let's close it out.
So one thing I want to say about what Hi-Fi just said, though, is that whenever I'm reapplying for a job that I got fired from, I always use Viktor Orban as a reference.
It's like, no, it's cool. You don't understand. Victor said so.
And the media should pay attention because he's the guy who actually killed freedom of the press in his country by having all media outlets donate themselves to the state-run organization. So
I mean,
well,
also
Elon Musk said he's going to buy CNN and Fox and shut them down for the good of humanity.
Well, Orban also went to fucking Mar-a-Lago or whatever it is.
Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I can't remember. Mar-a-Lago
is the name. Mar-a-Lago.
It's all just nasty, man. Anyway,
Yeah.
Here's Nafeez. Last one.
Who sees us as the enemy, and they are behind the alt-Reich. They are actively creating and formulating and trying to lend coherence to an ideology that they want to use to confuse us and to subjugate us. And the end result of that is actually that the entire species goes to hell. So that's not great for anyone. It's not great for the people who support this. And what I would say to the people who, you believe in something and you believe that there is, an apocalypse coming and all the rest of it, maybe, what we see before us to overcome the apocalypse is the human spirit and human choice. And that, it's not, this is, we're not supposed to sit here and say, let's all just become destroyed. But that in order for us to get to that kingdom that comes after that, we've got to build it. We've got to take responsibility. We've got to stop gaslighting our brothers and sisters. And we've got to start building a beautiful kingdom, on earth, based on love, based on compassion, based on the values we supposedly say we believe in. Well, if we believe in those values, then we need to take responsibility for that. And we need to start building that here and now in our lives. And that means taking a good look in the mirror. That's the stuff that I take away from the different faiths. It doesn't matter whether you believe them or not, but I think, you know, humanists and people of faith kind of have, you know, when we're having good dialogues, that's kind of what we agree on. That, yeah, you know, we need to look at ourselves. We've got to hold ourselves to account. We've got to keep that ego in check. We've got to listen to others. You've got to learn. Those are the things that will get us through. That will get us by, and that's how we can build new systems that can really work. Not this crazy bullshit, which is just literally narcissism on steroids. How can these people not see that? It's just crazy.
It's just crazy. Just crazy.
Nafeez is undefeated, man.
That
does say all the things.
I was just thinking that. Such a kind person, you know.
A kind person, but who punches hard.
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff he's saying is really important and you know, really real. We were talking about doomsday in that clip, about how the fact that all of these people want to, their entire idea is to terrify you about some magical moment that, you know, you have to get ready for, and therefore the earth doesn't matter and your life doesn't matter and your family, nothing fucking matters because of some magic bullshit that they're feeding you. I'm sorry, go ahead. I think you were trying to talk.
I just wanted to just kind of end the show and talk about the crazy, because this week we saw the crazy where an orange old man screamed at us about pets being eaten. We saw the world's richest man sexually harass a pop star on the social media platform that he bought to impose his reality upon the rest of us. Mm-hmm. We have seen Russian agents on everything. We have seen controlled opposition in our news. There are 53
up in our grill,
days.
Up in our grill. We've seen controlled opposition up in our grill.
There are 53 days left until this bullshit could possibly be brought to an end. But we also have to be hyper fucking aware because, you know, Mike Flynn and his goons are out there.
We got work to do.
We got work to do, but it's the end of summer. The days are getting shorter. The wind's blowing a little more chill. Trump talks a lot about how it's the end of the world and how everything's going to be terrible. Well, I would like to differ because I think there's a lot of beauty in the world. And some of that beauty from Akron, Ohio, is a band called Annadale. And they're our musical closer for this week. So
beautiful.
Here they are, Annadale.
Ohio.